My name is Eric Wallace. I'm one of the attorneys here at GreeneHurlocker. Thank you all for joining us this morning for this discussion with Leslie Elder of Community Solar in the Mid-Atlantic and some of the exciting developments that we have going on now and that have been kind of happening over the last few years. Leslie is the Mid-Atlantic Regional Director of the Coalition for Community Solar Access. And for those of you that have met her and seen her in action, you'll know that she is a community solar policy and advocacy rock star. So we're very excited to have her with us this morning to very briefly touch on what's happening on the community solar front around the Mid-Atlantic region. Leslie, in a moment, I'll ask you to kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the coalition and the coalition's work in the Mid-Atlantic. Regarding format, which I wanted to let everybody know that the plan is to briefly touch on Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania in the first kind of half of the discussion this morning, and then spend the last few minutes talking about Virginia, where we have some exciting updates to share and some evolving happenings that we'll only briefly be able to hit on, but that are worth exploring further down the road. So Leslie, with that, thank you for joining us this morning. It's a pleasure to have you with us. And if you could just kind of give us a quick introduction to, what is community solar and tell us a little bit about the work that the coalition is doing in the Mid-Atlantic to advance community solar policy.
Sure, rockstar. I hope I can live up to that. So I'm Leslie Elder. As Eric said, I'm the Mid-Atlantic Director for the Coalition for Community Solar Access. So CCSA is a trade association. We have over 60 members nationwide. In my region, it depends on the state how many members are actually engaged. So I have anywhere from on the low end about 30 members engaged into a state, and then at the high end about 60 members. So it all depends on the excitement of the market and what happens to be going on. The Mid-Atlantic region is incredibly busy. There's a lot of very exciting things that are happening in these four very diverse states. So I'll start with New Jersey. New Jersey is deciding that they really want to be a community solar leader. They're really tackling the low and moderate income challenge that is facing, I think, the solar industry as a whole. They have started a community solar pilot program moving into their second year. They have increased the capacity of the second year by doubling the program, which is incredibly exciting. And we're very honored to be working hand in hand with the BPU on that and working to expand that program out. In Maryland, they are also working to expand that program. CCSA in combination with MDVC and the solar industry as a whole, as well as a group of LMI advocates, just recently filed a petition in front of the PSC to increase the capacity of the last 3 years of the pilot program. So waiting in bated breath to see how that turns out. But we're extremely proud that we have been working so closely with the advocates in Maryland itself. And then we are also working at the county level in Maryland to expand out our programs there. So focusing in on some of the harder counties like Carroll and Hartford and Howard, and then also working on a farm solar working group in Montgomery County. Which I ironically, even though living in Philadelphia, was made the chair of the Montgomery County Farm Solar Working Group. So that's pretty fun as well. And then we have been running legislation in Pennsylvania. And unfortunately, we did not make it across the line on Friday. But we are doing some reconnaissance work and looking to see what that's going to look like for the 2021-2022 legislative session. The thing that I would say about this is that we were in the battle all the way until the end. And it was really fascinating to build up the political power on community solar working with a Republican legislature, a Republican-driven bill, and then really building the political power there. It was the first lame duck session that Pennsylvania has had in many, many years. And then on top of the first lame duck session, we also had the eyes of the nation in Pennsylvania on us because of the election, and then also a massive COVID outbreak right at the end. So there were a lot of political things that were coming at us right at the end that we obviously did not overcome, but lots of things happening there. And then I will pause.
Yeah, well, thank you for the quick tour of the Mid-Atlantic there. And given the format of our discussion this morning, we won't be able to get into more depth on those states right now. But after the discussion this morning, we will have a post on our blog at some point in the next week or so. We'll have some links to the Maryland petition that was filed. There's an opportunity to file comments on that by December 21st if you're interested. So look for that.
Favorable comments.
Yeah, always happy to have support for advancing the program in Maryland. So we encourage folks that are interested to do that. And if you have questions, of course, you can reach out to Leslie or I, and we're happy to help. So Leslie, let's move on to Virginia, and I'm going to give everyone a quick kind of update of where we are. For those that aren't familiar with the program in Virginia, last legislative session, or last winter, the Virginia Clean Economy Act was passed that included a bundle of renewable energy bills, including one for shared solar, which is the term that Virginia has used for community solar. That legislation went into effect in July of this year, and the commission undertook a rulemaking process that is required to conclude with regulations effective by January 1st of next year. So it's been a whirlwind, very quick process, but a lot of progress has been made on that front. And CCSA has been very involved in the process, along with the Maryland, DC, Delaware, Virginia chapter of the Solar Energy Industries Association, and many other environmental and advocacy groups. Very quickly, the legislation took effect in July. The commission initiated a rulemaking process. There were comments submitted in July and August, along with some proposed regulations. Then the commission published a notice with its proposed rules in September, after which there was another round of comments, and staff held a stakeholder meeting on November 16th. And then we've been kind of waiting on bated breath for the last week and a half or so for staff's report, kind of summarizing the comments and recommending any changes to the proposed rules in light of all those comments received in that discussion with the working group. That report was filed yesterday by staff and was posted and circulated this morning. So we just got it 20 minutes ago. But very briefly, I think that there is some good news to report. It appears that staff really did kind of dig into the comments that CCSA and others submitted and recommended some pretty significant changes to what it had or what was kind of included in the initial version. Leslie, I want to talk to you about a couple of the kind of key components of the Virginia rules in our last couple minutes here. First, there was a lot of concern about timing of the program and project qualification. So I was wondering if you could maybe take a minute and tell us a little bit about why that's important from CCSA's perspective and the perspective of your members.
Yeah, so in the legislation, there was a program delay that was requested by Dominion for a customer information platform, so they could more easily add bill credits to people's utility bills. And in the interpretation, the SEC had said that there wasn't going to actually be a capacity allocation until that 2023 deadline. Now, what that would actually mean is that there would be people would not be qualified to get cost savings from a shared solar program until 2025 because of the actual timeline that it takes to build projects. So what we wanted to see was that you would actually get allocation of capacity so we could start building the projects and start financing the projects so that people could start receiving cost savings by that 2023 deadline, because there's a lot of milestones that you have to reach in order to get to that point. And if you delay that until the 2023, then you're just seeing a massive delay to the time that people are going to be receiving the cost benefits, which was the entire intent of the legislation in the first place.
So, and in the report that came out, it looks like staff has sort of recognized that timing concern and has addressed it in its narrative, and also has recommended some changes to the proposed regulations really to address that timing concern. So I think that that's appears to be, at first look here, a really good outcome in this staff report. And I hope that the commission adopts that aspect of what staff has proposed here in this filing today, when the commission issues its final order. And kind of regarding procedure, the staff report is just a report. It has some good recommendations for changes to the proposed rules, but ultimately the commission is going to be the one that is issuing an order with the final version of the regulation. So we'll have to see what the commission does with the report that was filed yesterday, and how they address the recommended changes that the staff has proposed here. So we're running a couple minutes over, but very quickly I want to touch on one more issue here, and that's the minimum bill. Leslie, I know that CCSA was very concerned about the minimum bill. Could you kind of very briefly tell us what the minimum bill is and why it's an important aspect of the Virginia program?
Yeah, for sure. So essentially, a minimum bill is what it says it is. It's a minimum bill that would be put onto a shared solar customer that would pay their fair share of grid upgrades. But it's a very nebulous amount of money that has not been determined. And that could be anywhere from $8 to $100. And that really is not only detrimental to the financing of projects, which is important from a developer side, but really it is incredibly important on a cost savings perspective from a customer. So if you are going to be signing up for a shared solar program and you are looking for a 15 to 30% savings, and you then all of a sudden have $100 minimum bill, then you're not as interested in participating in the solar economy. And so that is one of the things that will make or break this program. And really, it's also a triple dipping on a shared solar customer, because they are also paying a lot of these charges already, because they're already connected as a Dominion customer onto the grid. So they're already paying a good portion of these things already. And so we think a lot of these charges are onerous and duplicative.
Well, and there again on that issue, we see that staff really, considered the comments that the CCSA folks submitted and discussed at that work group. And it looks like they have updated their proposed regulations to move away from kind of very specific required cost categories to be included in the bill, and have recommended changes along the lines of what the CCSA folks had recommended. And it looks like we will see kind of more on how that develops specifically in a future evidentiary proceeding. So, it looks like for those two key issues and many of the other issues that folks had commented on regarding the proposed rules, we are seeing a lot of movement in this report. So we'll be keeping an eye out for the commission order for the Virginia program, and that'll be coming out sometime between now and the end of the year, as those regulations are required to go into effect by the 1st of January of next year. And following this discussion this morning, we'll be doing a blog post with more information about the Maryland program that Leslie mentioned earlier, and also some of the links to some reference materials, including the staff report that came out yesterday for the Virginia program. And we'll be continuing to monitor that, and we're excited to see where it goes from here. But definitely, I think some good progress in the last 24 hours on that front. And with that, I want to thank you, Leslie, for joining us this morning and sharing some of your insights on community solar here in the Mid-Atlantic. We're excited to see the progress that's been made over the last few years since the Maryland program launched in the 2015-2016 timeframe, and now we have a New Jersey coming on board and Virginia this year, and we're excited to see what happens in Pennsylvania going forward. So keep up the great work, and thanks again for joining us, and thanks for all of you that attended, and we really appreciate your time this morning.
Can I do a plug for you?
Sure.
Eric Wallace is fantastic and keeps me apprised of everything, including the report that I have not read yet. So thank you, Eric, for being such a great lawyer and helping me get all this stuff done.
You're welcome. Happy to help. It's an honor. So thanks, everyone. Have a great Thanksgiving, and keep an eye on our blog for more updates on community solar related items, and we'll be tracking Leslie's progress across the Mid-Atlantic here going forward. So thanks again.
Have a great day.